How you doing? Mike from One Auto. 2011 Ford F-150. Going to show you how to install these Ford mud flaps available at oneauto.com. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is, with the wheel still on the vehicle and on the ground, place the mud flap. You don't want them sticking out too far, you don't want them in far, and you want them pretty much with the ground here. So figure out where you want the flap, and then I'm going to use a blue marker here and make a couple of marks. Just so I can line it up. Again, a little bit of a mark on the truck. So I can line everything up. And then we'll jack the truck up and take the wheel off. Before you jack your vehicle up, 22mm socket and loosen the lug nuts. Nice big breaker bar, we sell these at 1A Auto. Just loosening them up for right now. I'm going to jack it up. I put the jack right into the middle of the rear differential. Jack it and support it with jack stands under the rear end. Let it down on the jack, but then just keep the jack there in place for safety. And remove the lug nuts and the wheel and tire. So somebody's put some accessory wheel fairings on here, which is fine, but it's always good to, whenever you can, use factory mounting points. You can see that there's a clip right here, so we're going to pop that one out, and we're going to pop this one out, and we're going to use the mud flap hardware in place of those. The best tool for this job, a little clip tool available at 1A Auto. You can also try to use pliers or screwdrivers, but first kind of get in under the clip. Gotta kind of get one tooth first, and then try and slide them both in there. All right, once you're locked in, pull that clip out. Now I want to mark on the mud flap the hole that I want to go into. So I've got a nice sharp awl right here. I'm going to put it in from the back so I can make a mark on the back of the mud flap. All right, so put the awl right there. I'm going to line up the mud flap. Line up the mud flap where I had it based on the marks, and then take my awl, and that should just put a nice little pinhole in the mud flap right where I want the hole to be. So I have this hole marked on the mud flap. There's another hole that's behind this little accessory flare. So I'm just gonna push my awl through this and make sure that, yeah, it's going right through. And I can feel it I can feel my awl on the back side. So I need to put a hole in this accessory flare as well right here, so that I can have access to this hole back here. All right, so the bolt it comes with has a nice large washer. So don't make the mistake of drilling a hole that's only big enough for the bolt. You can drill a hole that's much bigger, and that way you have a little bit of room to move and adjust the mud flaps into the right position. So I'm going to choose a nice 5/16 size drill bit. All right, so I'm going to turn the little pin mark from my awl into more of a guide hole. Just use a small bit first, and then swap over to a large bit. Okay, now I'm going to install 2 of these J-nuts that come with the mud flaps. And I'm just going to pull this plastic part out just a little bit, go in between the plastic and the metal, and push it down. So the hole's right there. Again, use my awl to line it up. Okay, and the same thing for this one up here. Okay, so I do only have one hole in there right now, and I'm just going to roughly install the mud flap with the one bolt. All right, so I'm just kind of getting it tight, line it up. Again, I can move it around a little bit if I need to. Just looking at where my marks are. And I'll tighten this up. All right, now we'll want to put a couple more in, and just what you want to feel in behind here. I can feel there's a screw right here, so I don't want to quite go that high. I don't want to be over here because that won't go into anything. I need to be in line with my fender here, so we'll follow that right down. Might help to go smaller at first into the metal. Once you have a hole, then put one of the nuts in and put a bolt through. Alright, I've got that one located, but I just want to locate this hole here that already exists so I can use an existing hole. I only have to drill one. It's right through. Just gonna use a little flat blade screwdriver, put it between that molding and the metal fender, so then I can push my little J-clip in, make sure everything lines up. My clip in there, just use my awl, get everything in, lined up nicely. Get that one started in, put this one back in. And before I get them too tight, just come back here, check my alignment, marks, make sure they're still in the right spot. You've got this side on and you're happy with how it's mounted. Easiest thing for the other side, take it back off, put the same holes in your other mud flap, and especially these two holes are holes that already existed, so you should be able to line it up easily. Okay, so here's the mud flap for the other side. Put this right on top of it. Now we know exactly where to put our three holes. Okay, somebody put a little accessory plug in here, which is fine. There's a little Phillips screw in the middle, pull that out, and that comes out a little easier. Screwdriver to pull that out, install my two J-nuts. All right, here's my flap with the two lower holes already pre-drilled, and then the mark for the upper one. Just make sure the mark's on this side so you can drill through it. And put that one in place. And put that one in place. Okay, and I know from the other side that this part was just inside the top here, so I'm just going to kind of snug it up. And if you want, you can throw the wheel back on and line everything up. Okay, I've got my hole marked here. And I know from my other side, I was drilling a little close to the edge, so I'm just moving it in 1/4 of an inch. And now drill my big hole. And you can see, even I make mistakes a little bit. The hole I drilled was a little too far inside, so I had to make another one. But again, the heads on these bolts are nice and big. Goes in and grabs plenty. So put your wheel back on. And then I suggest just put a couple lug nuts on nice and snug. Put both of them back on and check where your mud flaps are at. Make sure you're happy with them. All right, after putting them on, stepping back a little bit, relatively happy. They are a little bit further outside than I wanted them, so just going to loosen them up. And if you're really unhappy and you needed to, you could always make the holes just a little bit bigger so you can adjust them more. Okay, so after getting them on there, I wasn't entirely happy with the alignment. I needed to move in just a little bit, so I'm just going to elongate these holes just slightly so I can move them in. Okay, so now you can see with those holes elongated, it offers me a little bit of flexibility to move it back and forth and line it up like I want it. Now reinstall all your lug nuts and just tighten them up preliminarily before you put the car on the ground. Jack the vehicle back up off the jack stands. Let it down slowly. And with the vehicle on the ground, torque the lug nuts to 150 foot-pounds using a crossing pattern. And the process is the exact same for the front. You have the same factory mounting locations that you can tap into. Thanks for watching. Visit 1AAuto.com for quality auto parts shipped to your door, the place for DIY auto repair. And if you enjoyed this video, please click the subscribe button.